Hello. Welcome
Hey.
everyone for another developer live stream. Oh my god. So for the people that want to have subtitles, we have them on screen. You can turn them off, you can change them, you can reset them. I think you can decide to turn it on and off automatically, but at bottom, but that way people that, can't hear us can actually still read what we say. So you can turn that off on the bottom if you don't want it. It's an app. You can make it visible or invisible, and hopefully it works. So I hope you're all doing well. Welcome, Dennis.
Hi.
We have another live stream for you guys prepared for update 6.0. You can't see my face, but it's here. It's on the stream. Yeah, you can turn it off if you don't want to see it, so it's fine. So we have quite a lot of stuff prepared. I know, first of all, to say, I know I'm a party pooper. I know you guys want to hear more about the new boss. That will be for next week's stream. With some other stuff.
Part one.
This is part one. Ooh. And you saved the best for last. So we are going to do, it's like, you can turn it off. It's just more, I know there are people that they can't hear, so like the subtitles will somewhat help them understand what's going on. It can't be perfect, but I thought it would be nice to actually have the ability for people that can't hear to what the hell is that haircut, Dennis?
Is this just my regular haircut?
I don't think he's changed that much.
No.
Anyways,
it's probably just light again. Yeah.
We got lots of stuff prepared, so let's dig in.
All right, yeah. So update 6.0 is what we have in the pipeline.
Yeah.
And today we're going to focus mostly on the player changes and some of the arsenal changes, as well as some of the level stuff. And there will be more in part 2, including the first look at boss number 3.
Yeah, so let's go. We have some new hunter variants.
Yes.
So let's take a look. I think that looks very sexy, especially this one. I think is my favorite.
So we have basically now a mix of additional like outfits that new recruits can come with for all of the tiers. So tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. Obviously the ones on the left, they look kind of tier 3-ish, I would assume.
Yeah.
So what you can see there is also like we have a bit more shrubbery on them. So it's basically as far as it goes for a ghillie suit of that era.
Yeah.
So everything is a bit more camoed up. That would be interesting for you to actually try out when you see them as like 3D models in the world.
If you get them in quick play, you can more easily get them, obviously, because otherwise it's still random.
Yes.
So no, it's not just there. I think we have 2 options because we also have another one. I also really like this one. The blue is very, I don't know, it's a very royal blue.
Yeah. Cavalry,
really like it.
vintage.
Yeah, I'm thinking about police officer when I think that, but it kind of looks like a police officer, like a modern day old school police officer.
Modern day
old
school.
Well, they don't wear blue back in the day, right? That's like a color for these days. So I would say like a modern old school. Or postman.
We see a couple of different like trench variations. Like you see like the fur coat on the left, which is a bit more like trappery, and on the right side you see like one of those veterans. I think there's like a cavalry hat on them. So just more outfits that you can basically get from recruiting new hunters. Yeah. And they will just spice up the range quite a bit. Exactly,
so you have more variations.
Yes, so hold interactions. So one thing we've been doing with this update 6.0 is taking a look at general player interactions. And we have looked at consistency, we have looked at gameplay, and we have done a couple of changes. So one of the bigger ones is that we now want you to hold the button for a second or two for bandaging up. So this is a very big change and something probably will take some time to get used to. So this is obviously one of the maybe not the easiest changes, but actually it plays very well in the boss arenas because you now actually have to really consider how you're going to get to that health if you're under pressure. So what it does is it doesn't make you just easily just go there, press a button and you fully restock. It actually puts a similar level of like tactical understanding, like when to go there, when to use it, like you do with a firefight with your vitality shots or with your first aid kit.
Exactly.
So it brings that into consistency. And just make sure it is the case. You see an ammo box right above that. Now, like to get it out of the way, ammo boxes didn't change. So you can just still go to ammo and just press the button once. There's no hold interactions on them whatsoever. We tried that out. It didn't feel so nice.
I'm glad, because I was like, no, I don't want to run around the boss and like, no, I have to stop 2 seconds to get where I'm at.
So what we try to do is basically, there's usually a couple of interaction things that are kind of bundled up, right? You might have like some lanterns, you might have some ammo boxes, sledgehammer, some of the healing stuff in there, and we want to make sure that they kind of follow a consistent language. That's why the lantern, that's why the sledgehammer, the axe, they're now following the same rules for picking up weapons, which means you need to hold a button just very briefly for the 0.3 seconds, as if you were to pick up a gun from the World in Quick Play or from a Dead Hunter. So they're just consistent because they're also kind of weapons, right?
Yeah.
And that makes it easier now to quickly go to an ammo box and press the button. You don't accidentally have a lantern in your hand. You just get the stuff you want. And the same is true for the health stations, which are, again, as you can see on that image, even like very close to ammo. Usually you can kind of very reliably get one or the other and see whether you want to commit or not.
Yeah, I've had that many times myself as well, that I want to pick something up and I end up with a sledgehammer. I'm like, this is not what I was going for.
So one thing we've also done with this is we looked at the existing hold actions. So, like when you hold up the gates, when you use the crank wheels, etc. And what we've done is we've enabled full free look for those. So what it means is you can now completely turn around on the spot while you're interacting with those. There's 2 exceptions, which we didn't change, and that's because they're using animations. So that's like the clues and rifts. So you still kind of focus on that spot. So we give you the same limited view as before on those. And also obviously ladders, because you kind of like have the animation there as well. But for reviving, for looting, for health stations, for any of the crank wheels, any of the hold actions you have in the game otherwise, you can now completely free look around while you actually use that might be able to allow you to spot that guy coming for you and just doesn't make you feel so vulnerable at that point. Yeah. We have, I think, a video for this even.
We do.
So let's just open this up.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh, spoilers.
Reveals.
So how this looks now is basically you go in there, you press the button, just 2 seconds. So it's a bit shorter even than the first aid kit, and off you go. And while you're doing it, you can kind of like free look all the way you like.
Yeah, that's good. I see someone already saw bomb lands.
I mean, we did it totally on purpose again, right, with the teasing, right?
Every tease here is on purpose.
So then let's continue. There's actually one important point here. No, we need to inspect once.
Okay.
One additional point, which is it's loosely connected to hold interactions, which is we don't want you to loot players that are burning anymore, or that have burned out. So what we've done is we've prevented you from getting anything from a guy that is fully burned out. Now this is an idea that we have in our nice burning meta to make people choose more. So should I just throw the lantern on the guy and basically set him on fire, maybe possibly get an advantage in a firefight against a team?
So he doesn't
but if he burns, then I cannot loot him, and if he completely dies from it, I cannot loot him afterwards. I get like a message telling me you cannot loot burning or burnt hunter. So it becomes more of a choice thing for me to consider whether I want to go down that road and burn or not. Now there's a second point, again, this is more closely related to the whole interactions related to this, which is that looting a player also takes the same time now as reviving a player. So if you stand on top of a killed guy, like you just took him out, unless you can be sure you're not being watched maybe by that teammate in the bush somewhere waiting for his partner like to revive him, you actually might be in trouble as well, because you commit to like these 4 seconds of kind of like searching him, etc. So the whole interaction change plus not being able to loot burning or fully burned out players is our next step towards like steering up the burning meta a little bit. So this is something we want to see how that goes in the test server.
So someone says, can you still get his weapon? No.
No, the weapon you can fully get. The weapon isn't.
Really?
Yeah, the weapon is separate. So basically, when someone dies, when someone dies, you have multiple interactions. You have the interaction on the corpse. This is the looting part. So this is where you either get a bit of money, where you get some ammunition, or maybe you can restore one of your items. In addition to that, he drops his weapons, the 2 main weapons he has on the ground. Those have different interaction points and can be interacted with differently. So those still remain. What we're talking about is that the actual looting of the guy, of the corpse itself, that is now following that particular logic.
Now I have to pay respects.
Yes, pay respects. So that's basically when it comes to the hold interactions. Again, the test server will show us how this goes. We spend quite a lot of time like getting the timings for this right, and making sure that we don't just force this on everything. Like not everything is a hold action now, just where it makes sense. So we're kind of confident it feels rather nice. It's something to get used to for the first couple matches, obviously, but it actually feels much more natural, what you would expect, especially with the consistency across other items.
Yeah, I'm actually very curious to see like if you also have a burned weapon. I see some people in the chat say like, it would be worth it if the weapon also would like get removed.
It's something we can always investigate and look at, but it's a completely different interaction path. So for us, just focusing on the hunter, similar with the revive, it's just on the hunter, was the easy step right now to just get rolling on this mechanic change.
Yeah.
And if this is still not enough, well, the weapon is a good way to expand on this, but first we have to see whether it makes sense, or well, just in general how people like it, if they like it, if they want more.
Well, that's why the test server is there.
Yeah. All right, so then we go on to new traits.
We have 3 new traits.
Right, so let's talk about the vulture and
awesome
the
art as usual.
Yeah, always.
Well, I would go one by one. You want to know?
Okay, one by one. So vulture, what does it do? Vulture basically allows you to always loot a guy, even if he has been looted 2 times before. As you know, we have the rule of 2, so that you can only ever loot something once, but another player, preferably your teammate, can also loot something. Like this goes for the ammo boxes, this goes for looting hunters, cash registers, etc. Now, specifically for looting hunters, the rule here is that even if someone has taken already, like has been looted twice already, let's say a team, if you have that particular trait, you can just get 1 additional 1 on top. So you can always get something. So this is going to be an interesting trait specifically for solo players trying to maybe like scavenge what's been left on the battlefield before, like afterwards. And gives people just a bit of a higher chance of accumulating.
And how much does this trait cost?
I'm not going to reveal that yet, but this will be on the test server. It's a reasonable amount, as always with everything we do. Then let's go on the next one. Ghoul. So Ghoul as a trait also plays into the whole looting aspect. Now what Ghoul does specifically is it gives you 50 hit points back when you loot. So again, it's kind of a ramp up, so that you can just, while you're in a firefight, I mean, keep in mind with the changes, 4 seconds now, right? Like there's more commitment to looting. Same for Vulture and Ghoul. And if the guy's been burning or burned out, none of these will work either, right? Obviously. But it gives you another incentive to maybe not burn the bodies, because there is more you can do depending on the traits and whether you like money or not.
Does it also work on lost health chunks or burned health chunks?
No, this is just really like a refill of health, so it doesn't restore. This is not like the butcher's vanishing, for example. So this is really just actually a refill, but it might give you like those like additional 50 hit points depending on when you pick it up and how it jumps between like the jumps. To maybe keep you in the fight if you're already out. So it's a minor point, but it's just a small little thing. Then we have the third trait, and that's adrenaline. Now this one is basically a mechanic to counter near imminent death. So what it does is basically that if you are very low on health, so you see like the screen kind of turning reddish, etc. Like this is when we give you basically instant stamina regeneration. So it basically, the moment you enter there, if you have the trait, this is when stamina will start to regen. That allows you obviously to keep in a melee fight much stronger, right? Like, I mean, obviously any other strike you might get, you might die instantly, right? Like, because it only really means you have like, 25 hit points or so left roughly. So any attack, any bigger attack will kill you, but it allows you to kind of like make your last stand, maybe kill like the 3 grunts coming at you, where normally with your tied melee attack you would have maybe only had a chance to kill and finish off 1.
Yeah, exactly. It's like panic, can't do it.
So it just gives you a little bit more of a chance to survive the situations. But it, like if you run up, let's say to a boss or to a meathead, I mean the next strike will still kill you anyway. So it comes with drawbacks.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, so that's the 3 new traits we have. And then we have changes to one trait, and that is the pitcher trait. So what we did for pitcher is we kind of won back a little bit on the bonus it gets. So we didn't change anything on the default throwing distances, except for 2 items, which is the decoys and the blank fire decoy. So they have been pulled back a little bit more to what the normal dynamites, fire bombs, etc. have. So everything is in the same range, except for the heavy items like the CONCERTINA, the heavy dynamite bundle, which is a little bit lower. And what we've done is that pitcher now has just like half the range bonus, roughly. It kind of depends a little bit on the item. Than it did before. So where you could throw like 25 meters, maybe you can throw like, let's say 30 something, but you can't go like beyond 40 meter range, which sometimes was possible with a pitcher. So everything is a bit closer. You just look at the bonus, and we also made pitcher a little bit cheaper. So we dropped the price from 7 to 5 upgrade points. So there is a give and take basically, and gives us like, it avoids a couple of things. It avoids the event of silent dynamites, which might be thrown from just where you never ever hear the fuse because the guy's like 30-40 meters away. That's one thing. It's an edge case, but it also affects this. And it just makes sure that if you want to bring bombs, like you want to be somewhere in a range where other people also can respond. So it doesn't become just like a grenade launcher trade, which kind of was before, right? And we also still keep some of the risk of having like a big dynamite bundle or like a hive bomb, like some of the heavy items, so the lanterns, because obviously the impact and the effect will be closer to you, so therefore you have to be a bit more careful. They're more lethal there.
Yeah, and also something that we have added also to the roadmap, we are still working on like balancing out the level of the grenades and like the throwing
also
the fuses.
Audio guys did some additional work on that, so this is like next step for us again.
Because we hear it obviously that you guys say like, oh, sometimes you still have a silent one or we don't hear it clear enough, so that's something that we're working on still too.
Yep. Then I think that's all for trades, right? Let me check the cheat sheet. Yes. Then move on to poison changes. Oh, that's a big one. Yeah. So what did we do to poison? First off, we made poison last less. So it's a shorter duration. I mean, kind of cheapens a little bit more, right? So we had originally 20 seconds of poison time. And by default, this is now 10 seconds. So we halve the time you are being poisoned. If you have the respective trait, which I can never pronounce, Mithrandatus or something, Mithrandatus, something like that.
Hard word.
That one dropped from 10 to 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. So you're even shorter affected by poison if you have the trait. So it makes it a little bit more like usable. Now, we didn't make everything easier with poison though. We actually we were naughty. We did some other changes. So what we did is we prevent you now from healing while poisoned. Mm-hmm. So you cannot use first aid kits. You cannot use vitality shots. You cannot use the vault healing while you are being under the effect of poison. So it's much shorter than before. However, while you're being poisoned, that is where the other guy might push you. This is where like that's whatever enemy might come around the corner, so you have to be much more on your like toes, because things might kill you more easily,
especially if we're fighting the spider. Now we also obviously think of you, our players, our beloved ones, and make sure you don't die so much from poison, right? So we're going to give you something also to help you mitigate this. We're going to give you something. We're giving gifts.
And this is changes to the antidote shot. So I think what we can do first, before we talk about the details, just watch the video. So, yeah, this one. So what we see here is, right now, there's a hive, it's being aggroed. What is that weapon? It's kind of weird. We'll talk about it in a second. Now we see a swarm coming at you, and you see how you're being affected by it just in a normal way, right? Just kind of like, yeah. See like how the health bleeds away. Now you put in the antidote shot, and what that does is it instantly takes away, as is already the case in the game, right? The actual poison effect, and we've scaled the damage a lot more. So while you still take damage, because I mean the stings, they kind of bite, whatever, it's very, very minimal. However, if you walk into any poison cloud, like the ones from the poison grenade, or for example the one spit by the spider, it doesn't do anything. You're completely immune to that. Now, you might wonder, like, okay, well, that's been like that before. Yes. However, before we only had the poison effect last a minute, and we kind of went a bit more extreme, and it's actually a full hour now. So basically, what that means is the moment you put an antidote shot in, it lasts for the remainder of the mission.
Oh wow, that is huge.
So if you bring that shot, or you find it in quick play again, once you find it, you put it in right away. You are basically immune to that You still take some of the damage, but it takes away a lot of the aggressiveness from the hives. From
so
others.
what if someone uses a poison crossbow and you are immune?
You will still take the physical damage,
Oh, wow.
which is a little bit lower than normal crossbow, but you will be not taking any poison damage. With the spider, we did actually a change which is going a bit in the opposite, but this has been in the opposite direction, but this has been for consistency. So what happened before was that if you were under effect of the antidote shot, the spider would jump at you and would do half the damage and also wouldn't poison you.
Yeah.
And because it was a bit too effective, what we've changed now is that it still takes away the actual poisoning effect when it jumps at you, but the damage is the same. So it's still gonna like bite you, sting you, whatever it exactly does there. It's nasty, but it does not like poison you. So you can move around freely, etc. But
Yeah.
that health chunk still is gone.
I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, that's how I feel like the start of the game, you just take the poison antidote and you're set for the entire game.
Yes, you are. But that means also you bring one less item into the game.
So it's technically like an item trait form-ish.
Exactly. You basically what you get is you you sacrifice a slot which you could have used for a vitality shot or for a dynamite stick or whatever you would like, and now that's actually allows you to bypass some of the harshness that comes from poison. It also opens up obviously like a couple of like interesting meta options, right? Like so maybe running with a couple of hive bombs and or the poison bombs and an antidote shot. Like you might actually have some pretty fun times with that. So even if the hive swarm goes for you in the end, well, you're technically just having an area damage zone around you, right?
Yeah.
And everybody else will be poisoned and will take the full damage. You just take a little bit. So this might be a valid strategy in a similar way, just like throwing like poison bombs inside, like for example, like a defensive position. If they're camping somewhere, defending like a banishing side, you can just throw it in, put it, and you just walk through it without any effect. They will always have the poison.
Yeah. Then people ask if the trait is also gonna get adjusted.
The trait is not going to get adjusted from a pricing perspective at the moment.
Okay.
So the only thing it does is it just like lowers the time still by 50%.
Gotcha.
It's just that it comes from a different base. So rather than 20 down to 10 for the regular, the trait is now 10 down to 5.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'm very interested in what you guys will do on the test server. Like if everyone will take an antidote slot by default, or because then if we do that, then obviously everyone will do it, and then it might render it like even. But yeah,
Let's see.
You already saw some things. What is coming
Ooh.
next?
So I think we're done with the player stuff, right? Like bigger player mechanical changes we have dealt with. So now Arsenal time.
You did not see anything
Not at all.
yet.
So the Lamat.
Something that we have showed already in the missions or
And the challenge video,
challenges
or it was lying around, and I think people have kind of expected that one because we've been very subtly teasing this one over the last months already. Now the Lamat is an interesting weapon, not just because it's yet another cool looking revolver. It also comes with a couple of special things, which is maybe a bit of history. So originally the Lamat pistol was a pinfire revolver from the Civil War era. So it wasn't using cartridges, it was just like basically ball and cap, as was typical at that time for the most part. It had a specific trait, which was that it has 2 barrels. So it has a normal revolver barrel, and then it has a second one underneath, which is a bit bigger, which actually holds a shotgun shell. Like in our case, it's a shell. Back then it was actually just black powder and grape shot. Now, what we've done is we've taken our own take at the Lamat and we've kind of modernized it. So what we're looking at is the Lamat Mark II, which is basically our version of the Lamat. I mean, obviously the Civil War is over for like, was it 35 years roughly? Is in the time that Hunt plays. So people had the time to kind of play with the weapons, modify them, convert them, as we've seen with the conversion pistol, also the Corporal. And the Lamat with its 2-fire option is something completely new in this game. Now, what does it mean? Is like, how do we actually get to this different fire modes?
How do we even choose this weapon? I'm curious. Like how? Yeah.
How do we choose it?
Just because
Well, I think a few of us might have been watching Westworld.
No, I still watched the season.
But also, obviously, it's a pretty visually interesting weapon. That
I mean, yeah.
As we went through like different weapon options, etc., we kind of like saw this one as being like a pretty heavy piece you have, and it just like the double fire mechanic looks very interesting. So what we're looking at is basically a regular small slot revolver. It fires 9 rounds, compact ammunition. So it's pretty weak rounds. It's also a heavy weapon, which means that if you fan it, it just actually fans pretty slowly. So closer to, let's say, what the uppercut is doing compared to what the smaller pistols are doing, just because it's that cumbersome weapon. And together with this weapon, we've introduced a new button to the game, which is the fire mode switch button. So you can remap that obviously in the options menu. By default, it's set to the X button, and what it does is it toggles between fire modes on weapons that have support. At the moment, it's Lamat as a new weapon, which takes advantage of it. So you can kind of toggle between the shotgun mode and the normal mode. And there's a second thing we're going to talk about in a second, which is also with 6.0 being changed by it. And in the future, there might be more and more things that take advantage of this. So let's have a look at the video, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 pictures, so you have another look at it.
So let him look at them for a moment.
Look at it for a moment, guys.
So dirty.
So dirty. I mean, I definitely think that would be a very fun weapon to play with, though. Yeah, we got very pretty pictures. Okay, let's go to the video.
All right. So this one should be this here, I guess. So this is the Lamat in action. Just nothing special yet. It's just a revolver, as you can see, 9 rounds. Then if you switch to fire mode, which is basically just a different pin on the hammer that has to be set in a different position, so it strikes at a different hammer position, it actually has the shotgun shell. You can reload that with a flip action, and then you actually reload the basic rounds in a very traditional way.
Yeah. The head.
He couldn't believe what the new weapon is doing.
Yeah, I was like, what is this? What is this? I don't know where to look.
So the shotgun is actually less accurate and spreads a lot more than any hand cannon. It's even with a shorter barrel. So it's actually really almost reliably maybe up to like 3-4 meters or so. It's gonna be much closer even than what we see on.
We didn't have this.
The what? Oh yeah, well we can show that in the second screen.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Now the weapon now basically gives you an option, which is for your one backup weapon you have, you can either get normally, like let's say a shotgun if you have quartermaster, or you can just bring a pistol. But now with this one, as a small slot weapon, you can technically have both, but obviously not as effective as some of the other like better versions. Like so obviously going with the chain pistol, you might get even more ammunition than just 9 rounds, or with the uppercut you have more like long bullets, etc. It does more damage. And with a hand can you actually have a much more effective shotgun, but here you have a combination, so it's a bit of a trade-off. It's a middle ground. So we think this goes actually quite nicely with some of the arsenal weapons at the moment, because it allows you to respond to, for example, other shotguns being in the area, as well as some mid-range fighting.
So one turn.
Yeah. And then there's a second thing that uses this new fire mode button, which is the lantern. So what you can do now, obviously granted this will record in daytime, you can use the X button also to turn the lantern off, and you can throw it. Now this is mostly for consistency, something we had actually as a feature even before we initially launched last year. Yeah. We had to disable it because the whole fire mode button thingy wasn't working correctly. What's important to note here is that the way our weapon system works is that the moment you drop a weapon and pick it back up, it kind of resets to its base state, which is on the lantern, it's turned on. So if you turn the lantern off and you drop it and you pick it back up, you pick it up and turn it on at the same time automatically. Oh, okay. So you can't place a lantern lit in an environment, at least at the moment, that's not possible. This is obviously something which would be super awesome if you could expand it at one point. Right now, we can't. But what it allows you is that, for example, doing like a nighttime mission, you can now turn the lantern off if you want to cross a certain area, and just before you want to throw it, you turn it back on so it doesn't completely shine on you and illuminate you and give you away. So,
yeah, we have default now. Press X to switch, but you can rebind that too.
Yeah, it's in the controls options menu. Just access the default. So again, the lantern, it's mostly a consistency change because it would kind of be weird just adding like a new button just for a new weapon. So you also have it on the lantern, and moving forward, more and more things might take advantage of this.
Okay, next.
Oh, a new rifle.
A new rifle.
All right, so we are adding a new bolt action to the game, and this one is called the Lebel. This is a French bolt action rifle originally. It was technically, it's like the older cousin of all of the more modern bolt action rifles, like for example the Mosin Nagant we have in the game. Like was originally I think invented in the 80s, and was back then a revolutionary design, which most of the other more modern bolt action rifles that came on over the next like 10-15 years, including all of the ones from all the World War I and World War II games, were kind of like based off and took inspiration from. Now the Lebel rifle is a bit of a different weapon from some of the others we have in here, and that's mostly because of the loading mechanism. So it's actually a little bit closer to the Vetterli than it is to the Mosin Nagant, and that it is being fed in a tubular magazine. So what it means is that this weapon actually can hold a maximum of 10 rounds inside the tube. It's actually a high capacity, and this is a long ammo weapon. So this gives people like a 10-round bolt action. It just, for compensation, for balancing, has just 5 extra rounds. So it's a similar logic as we, for example, followed on the Dolch. So that obviously you won't get that much ammunition from ammo crates and from ammo boxes, etc. But this holds quite a substantial amount of ammunition. Now, where's this weapon different? It's a bit more clunky overall, I would say. So this weapon is just a bit more worn. It's a bit heavier. The mechanism isn't just as smooth as, for example, on a Mosin Nagant. So the fire rate is a little bit slower with this weapon. It takes a bit more time, and obviously you cannot just top it up with a stripper clips. You can't just put 5 rounds in one go. You actually have to put them in, and like the actual, even the loop ammunition part, it takes a little bit longer than on some of the other weapons, which we will see in the video.
Yeah, it is indeed long weapon ammo.
Yes. So I think the Mosin Nagant has a fire rate of 1.2 seconds. Every 1.2 seconds you can kind of fire a shot, but this one I think it's 1.5-ish, maybe even a little bit longer.
I like a bit of clunk in my life.
Yes. So obviously, as you can see, it supports bullet rubber, and it kind of like see like how he needs to push the weapon, the ammunition a little bit more inside, and just everything takes a little bit longer. So like where the Mosin might be firing like 3 shots, this might fire only 2 shots, and the reloading process also obviously is just a bit more awkward, intentionally, just differentiate.
To give it a bit more of a
exactly. So it's damage-wise, this is actually I think 5 points lower roughly than the Mosin Nagant does. So they're still very close, but it's slightly weaker. I mean, obviously it uses a different round, like the French cartridge of the time. And,
yeah, it looks really cool. Anyone got a screenshot of the powerful? No worries, you're gonna see everything. Oh, it's not that.
So with the reload, it's actually one thing which is pretty interesting with the weapon. The last bullet is being inserted is kind of like being put on top of the elevator. That kind of lifts the bullets from the tubular magazine up into the chamber. So if you have a completely empty weapon and you just reload rounds, you will technically always get 2 rounds because there's another one being put right after you put one in. So when it comes to just topping up quickly 1 or 2 rounds, you actually might get a faster reload than with a Mosin Nagant or any of the other rifles, just because of how that mechanism works. But if you want to have a full reload, that takes a lot more time, obviously. And if you don't have bullet grubber, every time you open it, you lose a round. You have the usual setbacks and drawbacks from this.
I want to see the iron side again.
Yeah, show the side picture. You can pause there and say.
Yeah.
So that's basically how it looks. At distance, maybe I think we can fast forward to the hive even. This is more of a distance shot, or this one actually could be interesting.
At the moment, we don't have any variants yet. It will be the first one.
So this is the base weapon, and like with many of the other weapons we've released so far, eventually we put out additional versions. So yeah, rest assured there will be some variations for this weapon as well.
Yeah, I see already some people, will the label come with a pointy end? And then someone else, I need me a bayonet. maybe. So I think melee options are usually pretty popular, as well as like obviously magnification options. So let's see what we'll have in store with the label in the next update. In the future.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that was
that was the label.
Yeah. Then the second video.
So yeah. I need to close this, I think, otherwise you have both running.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So maybe before we talk about this. Okay. So the bolt action rifles. There's always been a bit of a taint on them. There's always been something which people weren't so happy with, which was primarily how it kind of was being restrictive on your movement, especially while you were in iron sights. So one thing we've been doing for this update is we kind of like try to get rid of some of these issues with the weapons kind of restricting you to move away, etc. So what you will see now in that video here is that you will actually be able to, while obviously from the hip it always worked, but while you're in sights, you can already start sprinting here. So as you see, this is the same speed. So overall, the restriction that we had before, where people kind of were stuck in movement, in normal movement speed, and maybe they had to wait for this for the bolt cycle to finish. There was a grenade coming away; they couldn't run away. So that part should be resolved now, which means, in general, not only will you get a new bolt action rifle, but all bolt action rifles will kind of get a little bit of a quality of life improvement that will just make it a little bit easier. It might not be 100% perfect. Again, give us your feedback on the test server on that stuff to see what you feel. But primarily, when you're in sights and you have to wait for the bolt action inside the sights or the shoulder, you can already move with the speed. It might not look like it sometimes because of the FOV changes, etc. But it is actually exactly the same speed as if you were sprinting.
Yes. So, and now we go to something.
More weapons. We still haven't left the arsenal, right? So we're still technically
in the arsenal. I mean, you might have seen it sometimes before in the past, you know, previous streams.
The bomb plants.
The bomb plants.
All right, so this one is something that is very special for us, because technically this was one of the first weapons, or the first special weapons we kind of designed for this game a long time ago. And which we decided to park because it wasn't really 100% functioning the way we wanted, etc. So it was sitting there on the shelf on the bench for quite some time. Now what we've been doing is we've picked this up again. We've worked on the mechanics a little bit and come up with a new long slot melee weapon. So this is the first long slot melee weapon we have, a large slot melee weapon. Obviously, that comes with a handicap because you would need to leave your rifle or whatever shotgun you have at home. For you. No label for you if you have the bomb plants. So obviously, this has to be rather powerful and meaningful for you. So what we've tried to do with this is to kind of combine this weapon, which is on one hand a melee weapon. So you can see kind of like on the right, it folds, so it kind of can be stored in the back rather nicely. And has like a pretty a sharp blade there, but there's like some spring-loaded stuff, as you can see in the center. And the reason for that is that this actually has a harpoon. It can launch spring-loaded harpoon, and that harpoon contains explosives. Now, what that means is that as this harpoon penetrates into a grunt, a target, whatever, with a delayed fuse, it blows up, and consistently, like, it blows up that enemy as well. So this is a way for us to give you an insta-kill weapon against basically any core AI type we have. The bosses obviously might take like 2 or 3, depending on the boss, tuning, etc. Similar as is with a nitro rifle, like you don't want to make it like an insta, but you walk up to a meathead, you walk up to an armored and emulator, they basically instantly get taken out by this one, but you have limited supply, like you have, for example, with the special crossbow ammunition. Now, let's see what this thing does in practice.
The video!
Is it this one here? Yeah. So rather straightforward. It is a melee weapon. I mean, with the grunts, it's kind of okayish, but like those little three fellows here, they kind of like die in one strike, and the horses die too.
Of course, the horses.
And then we see the aiming mode. So if you aim with this weapon, I fired the torpedo at him now, so this harpoon, and it kind of takes him out instantly.
So cool.
So just rips him into pieces. There's an awesome reload animation with this. Like kind of puts this little mechanical crank on it, puts the tension back in, reloads another of these harpoons, and
everyone's like, "Oh my god, what?"
So I was like desperately looking for enemies here, as I recorded this earlier.
But no, this is a two-handed weapon.
Yes.
Slot that you give up for it. So
I was unfortunately not encountering any single AI in this house here.
the luck.
So I did not record for this video an image of me harpooning the meathead, just because there was still a little bug in the current builds with this one when he dies. But you can try that on the test server. It will be fixed by the time it goes there, and this guy comes apart very nicely.
Yeah. Oh, he's a resilient one. You can see he wasn't ready to die. Again.
So it also works obviously with all the special AI we have. Like in this case here, as you can see, my perfect aiming completely working out on this one, like not. But which was all intentional distraction from my side to just make him move in the perfect position. So this one was a hit, and off she goes.
It's such a satisfying like explosion.
It's very crunchy.
Yeah, it's nice.
And so if you time it well, like I did here, you can actually even kill them without being affected by the swarm from poison.
Yeah.
And you will also see here, obviously, the shorter poison time.
It's so good.
And the grand finale can we see fail against some doggos as well.
Oh, so you're dying?
I'm not dying, but like it's like I could have probably fired a bit more effectively. Like on this one as well.
So if you were to shoot it at something, but it doesn't if you don't directly hit it on something, will it still blow up something?
It blows up, but it does way less. So the idea of this, it's a very concentrated explosive, so it has to kind of like burst within the body to be full effective. If you just hit a tree or the ground or whatever, it does some splash damage. I think for players it's like 50 hit points maybe. Like it's really not that much. So this is not just like a stick with a grenade launcher. You want to hit them, and because of the crosshairs you've seen, you have to be really close with them. So yeah, that's the bomb plants.
Do you want to look at it a little bit more? Maybe just skim through a little bit? I mean, I like it. I think people like it.
Interesting note is for the emulator. So I mean, you know, like our rule in the game with fire and explosives is like things blow up, right? If they get in contact with fire, if you manage to hit the emulator, it basically goes up directly on him. So it still kills the emulator, but you won't get a delayed explosion because it pierces the skin. He ignites systemically. It ignites the explosive. So that's basically it goes up in your face. Now, what's also important to note with this one is that if you actually hit them with this, you are safe no matter how close you are, because their flesh protects you. So what it means is, even in close range, like an armor chasing you, etc., you can still fire that projectile easily. He will just detonate in front of you, he will come apart, but it will not do any splash damage. Splash damage only happens if you shoot it in the environment, and then it systemically blows up there.
So how much, like how does this fare against players?
So if you hit the player with a projectile, which you first need to do, it would insta-kill. So they're downed, which means they can be picked up. They wouldn't explode, obviously, but if you manage to shoot that harpoon at a player, that player goes down.
Damn.
But the thing is, like, it's the same range as crossbows, other things. Like if you hit them with a crossbow at like 10-50 meters in the upper chest, they also go down one strike, right?
Yeah.
So what's important?
I don't know. It's always sounds so.
The important part is just that we won't be able to completely destroy a player.
That would be so good. Like it's like.
Yeah, but would it really?
I mean, yeah, it would. I would be for it. Just destroy the player's body. When do we get them?
Basically, show them the finger.
It would be the Mortal Hunt combat, like Mortal Hunt. We got the fatality.
Yeah.
Down here.
I really like the animation for reloading. Like, it's very, very nice. Again, also one of the animations we've been carrying around for quite a long time. It's been obviously touched up, made much nicer. Like a proper pass on it recently by our animation team. But like that's one of the things I really missed in the last year of our early access, not having this weapon.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people have been asking for it for the first time that we showed it, obviously, and it's been coming up pretty frequently. Oh, that one. So good. I like that.
All right, let's spare myself the humble part here with the Hellhounds. Okay, then we go further.
Yeah, because we still have some stuff.
It's more equipment. We're still in the arsenal. So, so one thing which has been very much absent from the game are more traps, more things to do. So basically, since we introduced the bear trap, it never went further than that, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you can't really plan out for it. So what we introduced is we introduced trip mines. Now, what was very important for us is that we do not want trip mines that kill the players. So like that's super frustrating, like just putting like a frag bomb on a stick, whatever,
like,
and then there's nothing you can do about it. So what we wanted to do with them is we want to first off use them for revealing players, so that you can kind of control them, and as they try to maybe storm your compound or storm your boss arena you're defending the banishing.
Yeah.
So for that we now have the alert trip mine. The alert trip mine is basically like 2 sticks with like some you call it like tripwire, and it has some like makeshift explosives, some like a firework stuff in there. So as you basically trigger it, obviously if you would put it on an oil puddle, it would kind of set it on fire. But apart from that, it's mostly there to make noise and light and alert you of the enemy's presence. So for this, we also have a video.
Yeah.
So, as you can see, it's kind of placed like a bear trap. It comes as a tool, so you have a pack of 3.
Take it.
And yeah, so if you use them next round, if you survive, obviously they come again. So in this case, you have to just walk through. Just quickly get in here. You can see like some firecrackers. There's been like a flare being shot up in the sky. And obviously, if there would have been a ceiling, like you would have that flare like bounce in the room and then just be close to the spot. And it gives you a chance. Basically, now you don't have to rely on finding enough bear traps, for example, to crowd control. You can actually bring those as a slot, have 3 of them, and you can put them on the windows. Maybe you don't have any traps anymore, or you put them on the far side of the compound, so where maybe you don't have a good line of sight, so you can just place them around there. While maybe you focus with your like concertina bomb or with your bear traps more on the approaches close to you.
Someone asked, can you disable it?
Yes, you can. You can walk up to it, disable it, and there's even another thing, which is that you can, after you've disabled it, pick it up even if it's not yours. So technically,
you have to have an empty slot.
Not really, because it's just a world item at this point. So like the bear traps, you can carry it around. Obviously, it overrides your weapon in the meantime, but you could replace it. So if you storm a compound and some people have defending themselves in there, you took them out because you're better. You can now go and reposition their traps as you see fit.
Oh, that would
like
be
you
super
can
funny.
like you know with the bear traps.
You don't say, but like you just place them somewhere else. Oh, great.
Yeah. So. Again, this is primarily for giving players a chance to kind of like manage approaches, get an overview, be defensive about it.
No, it starts off as like an item you take with yourself, and then it can become a world item if you were to pick it up.
Exactly, but
like disabling it from the floor.
So at the moment, systemically, even for the guy that originally placed it, it would also be just a world item at this point. So it wouldn't go back to inventory.
Yeah, but as soon as it's placed, it's a world item.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. All right. So because we like these traps so much, we made another one. So we also have the concertina trip mine. Now, again, as I said before, we don't want this to kill, but we never said anything about not maiming. So what this one does is it's basically a mini concertina. So think of it as being big enough to block a window or a small door, it's not effective enough to block like one of those bigger barn doors.
Yeah.
Also, like if you, for example, go down healing waters with the stairs, like that corridor is too wide for one of those to be effective. And this one is also a tool, but you only get a single one. So technically, if you bring both the alert trip mine, the concealed trip mine, you might have 4 traps at your disposal. 3 of them being the alert ones, and then 1 concertina one. This was important for us because we didn't want this to compete with the actual concertina bomb item.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is obviously a consumable. This one is a tool. Now we have footage of this as well.
In the map.
In the map.
In the map. In the map.
So,
In the map. In the map.
there you go. So this is basically the same trap, just in this case loaded up with the concertina wire. Just a quick demonstration here. So obviously where you place it. Now if Mr. Armored here decides to actually come through the door, it takes a moment for him.
He's like, I don't know about that. I
He
can
trips
clearly
it.
see a trap.
So systemically it does the concertina damage. As you can see, it's a much smaller footprint.
Yeah.
And we've been doing something with concertina wire in general. I think we see that in a second, but you get a glimpse of it right here, which is something as different as you kind of try to. It doesn't. Why doesn't it? I want to go through, but it can't. So basically,
I'm just gonna think how the concertina is gonna be against the butcher.
yeah, well, the butcher is not affected in the same way, and he kind of destroys it. So if we take a look now at the next one. We have Concertina REWORK. So what you've seen is something which we obviously carried over also to the regular Concertina bombs. So like Chris, one of our designers, has been looking at the Concertina, the way it's set up, the technical side of it, and like the ray cast, the checks it has. It can optimize it. It's much more easier for us to place. It's much better, and as a consequence we've now added a feature into it, which is that it kind of slows you down. As you know, at the moment you can throw a concertina at the door and you just run through. You might lose maybe 25 hit points, you might be bleeding, yes, but you're in the room. You're in the room with your shotgun, with your whatever weapon, and this one now needs to be overcome, which means you can still kind of force your way kind of through it. But you have to do this case by case. Every time you take damage, it kind of slows you down for a moment, so the whole thing becomes a bit awkward, a bit cumbersome, and ideally you don't want that. I mean, you can still blow it up by just like throwing dynamite at it and clear the path.
It's technically the only thing that vastly changes is the fact that it slows now.
Exactly. And one thing which also changed, and you can see that in a second as we show the basic concertina bomb, is the way it expands, the way it covers an area has been reworked as part of the logical changes we've been doing. So it's much more volumetric, right? Like it has more volume overall. It's before it was kind of flat on the ground. Now actually it takes a pretty nice area.
Yeah.
And as you can see, like here, like even with the bomb plants trying to get through, it takes time. So this one becomes an actual obstacle. Obviously that works both ways, right? But if you manage to either explode it, like detonate it,
I like that someone is like, I didn't even know you can just run through these. Or like, I didn't know in the first place that you could have run through these.
Yeah.
No.
So yeah, general concertina changes alongside the new concertina trip mine, and that will be interesting also obviously to get your feedback on the test server, what you think of it, how do you like it, if it becomes problematic, if it becomes too much of a trolling type of thing, if we think it actually is a feasible. I mean, for us it's kind of consistent, it works. I mean, it's a what do you call it, like a bundle of concertina barbed wire.
I personally always take concertina with me. I really like the concertina.
I think it's pretty good if you're moving around as a solo. For me, it helps me to control spaces better. So, I mean, to my shame, sometimes with some of the partners I've been playing, we actually built like a Fort Concertina, which actually means like we both bring a couple concertina bombs and just bunk it.
It's like, ooh,
just bunk it down. Well, you always have to bring one dynamite stick. And then that means basically, while you have all the guys running around, hopefully killing each other while you're sitting in a little Fort Concertina, at one point you'd pick up one of the exits, you throw dynamite, and you make a run for it. Which is kind of a lame tactic, but actually it's mighty fun if you try it out.
I mean, yeah, I think it is a good one. Yeah. I mean, I'm. Someone asked, why is it called concertina when it's barbed wire?
It's because historically that's what the name of it is. It's the concertina, you know, like the instrument. It kind of like expands, and that's just where it comes from. It is a barbed wire but also the technical term of it is concertina wire.
The more you know, because I had no idea. Yeah, concertina is a free-reed musical instrument like the various accordions and harmonica. It consists of expanding and contracting bellows with buttons usually on both ends. And that's what it's based on. So, the more you know. You're learning things here, kids. Stay in school.
Then, what else do we have? I think we're not done yet, right?
No, we have...
I think... Flash bomb tweaks.
Yeah, flash bomb tweaks.
So, the flash bomb. One of the things that frustrated us the most with the flash bomb was that you would get a hit blip, but you didn't know how effective actually the throw was. Like, did you actually hit the guy fully and he was out for like a few seconds, or did you just glance him and maybe by the time you come around the corner he already has the gun trained on the door again? That was frustrating and making it very unreliable. So what this one does now, these changes, is that only if you do a full flash, so if the guy has been within the maximum effective range, will you get a hit blip. So that means that you might be throwing it and he might actually be out for a second or two, but you just don't get any hit blip of it for it. Only when he's out for, I think, was it 4 or 5 seconds, which is the maximum blind time, will you be able to see that, and that's when you can also then reliably go in and do something about it. So this is more of a smaller tweak of the weapon, but it should make the whole thing more reliable and maybe also more interesting for some players to use. We did also some small changes to it, so that's more often for an aesthetic thing. If you throw it up to 30 meters and you look at the flash, it kind of flashes you all the time, but this is more just like a little blink, but it just feels overall a lot nicer. So try it out. Yeah, it's
just let us know.
Some of the people I've been playing with know that I do love my flash bombs, and this one actually is a lot more interesting now for me as well because it's more reliable.
We didn't have a video for it. No.
Nope. Then, more weapon stuff. Shotgun tuning. So, we had the shotgun changes in 5.0. They're big changes. They were game changes in terms of shifting of the matter, and we're still happy for them for the most part. However, we obviously did additional tuning to them. So there's 2 changes that we've been doing to them right now. So first off, we didn't do anything to the close range damage of them. So that wasn't changed before and that isn't changed here. What we did, however, is we tuned the body parts of the players so that if you hit them in the limbs, that does a lot less shotgun damage. So if I'm not perfectly hitting the chest section, let's say with a Romero hand cannon up to like 5 or 10 meters, I will not be able to bring the guy down. So if I just glance him on the shoulder and a lot of the pellets go in the arm, or if I hit the legs, which is most noticeable, I might need the follow-up shot. So technically it is a damage reduction, but it's more of how you use them and it rewards the aiming a lot more.
So you have to aim a little bit more carefully.
Exactly. So that's one part. And the other part is we looked at the damage. We want to actually prepare a chart. Didn't have the time to finish this today, so we will look at that very likely in the second part of the stream.
Yeah.
Where we I did already. Oh. So where basically we will. So what we did is thought. In the mid range, the shotguns drop and bleed damage a little bit faster than they used to. Slightly, like 10-15%, they go down a little bit faster, which means in your typical between 10 and 20 meters ranges, like you will notice that they're a little bit lower. Not that much, but still noticeable. Mm-hmm. However, we carried the minimum damage, so where you lose like 10, 15, maybe if it comes to 20 hit points, we carry that for a longer time now, so until you reach the maximum distances. The maximum distance hasn't been changed, so it's still going to be 40 meters maximum range, basically where you would get 0 hit points afterwards, for the regular shotguns, and 25 meters for the hand cannons. But obviously, like the last half of that range is kind of like insignificant from a damage. You can respawn, they might duck, you might get some hit feedback, but it's not meant to kill or anything like that. It's just that the damage drops a little bit faster, but it carries that lower damage still a little bit longer before it then dips down. So that means you still have a chance to kind of like have a firefight with people, but obviously any like compact bullets will out damage you at that distance. So again, look at it on a test server, see what you how you like it, what you feel, and for us, changes on the shotguns are rather easy because it's mostly just about numbers. Mm-hmm. What's important is that shotguns have to feel more consistent. They have to feel more normalized with the damage. So we achieved that part, and obviously that made them come across much stronger, and actually intentionally so, because they have been kind of a bit of a laughingstock for some time. They have their place in the meta now. They are very powerful and very dominating on close quarter combat. This is where maybe your uppercut doesn't cut it anymore. Sorry. But that's intentional.
Of course we had a pun.
But in general, give us feedback about this, how this plays on the test server, and then we talk about it more. I had to. Then what's next in store?
We have some map changes.
Yes. So I think we've concluded the arsenal part, and I think we've shown them quite a number of weapons. So I think they should be happy.
New stuff. Yeah.
Good. So Lawson Delta. For this stream, for the first stream, we're going to focus on Lawson Delta.
Yeah.
And in the second part of 6.0, we're going to show you the changes for Stillwater Bayou for the old map.
Yeah.
So, a couple of things. So, remember this area here possibly. Open, lush, swampy. We have a bit more paths through it now. There's a bit more cover obstacles. So, like, this is just...
It's not so open.
Exactly. Yeah. So, this is just like a general thing. This is just like one example here where the map has had, in some areas which might have been a bit too exposed, a little bit more cover, a little bit more options, and therefore also, hopefully, more interesting firefights happening around that. Then we have our river stream. So this is basically on the north side of Fort Carmack. And what you've seen is like the sandbank type of open area, which was very painful to get across, right? Like if you were caught in the open there, if you were lucky, maybe some of the bushes might be able to obscure you and help you, but you were very exposed. So we do have now a trench running on it. So we still have the sandbanks, we still have the water, the river stream, but halfway through basically you have an outer ring around the fort now with additional fortifications and trenches, and obviously you can use that to kind of like more undercover, like move to and fro, but use it also as a maybe as a vantage point for like shooting at people, etc. So overall, more cover options, while still obviously keeping the spirit of the map, which is a bit more open than what we have on Stillwater Bayou, and gives you more options. I think we have a couple additional angles to this one. So here, this is a little bit further to the west, but it's the same sandbank, or the sandbank, and you see now the sandbank has been improved with sandbags, and now, now we actually see more cover there. And this is from the opposite direction, so this is more to the northeast of Fort Carmack. You can see the fort in the background. It kind of has been broken up a little bit, and we have these additional paths.
I really like the trenches.
Yeah, so there was like a central part of the map that was kind of a bit of a weird thing for traversal, and I think level designers have done an amazing job of kind of like integrating this bit more into the game space and actually making it interesting for people to traverse and fight. So here's another one of those fields. This is on the east side of the map. Again, as it's just been adjusted, you can see I talk a little bit.
Just a little,
so you see like a dock canal has been added. Some of the trees, you see like it's kind of a denser area in the center there, where it was a bit more open, a bit more exposed.
Clouds, the weather just got worse.
A little bit
significantly.
Exactly. There's a bit of a foothill now, so that kind of helps obscure as well as you approach. So everything has been kind of like optimized a little bit, made sure that there's more options for you as you move around the map and as you find cover, but also more obstacles, like for example the doggies in this case, in your way possibly.
Can you guys believe that there's also a boss coming this patch? Like this update, with all of this when we showed so far, there is also a boss coming.
So it might be very interesting to tune in to the second stream.
Yeah.
So we also did some changes to world things. In this case, our beloved birds, and that also includes the horse, because it's systemically the same thing.
Yeah.
We did some additional adjustments to this with the refactoring we've done the last time. The biggest change here is just that as you walk away from birds, they don't trigger as aggressively anymore. So
because we saw there was a Steam forum and like people are messages everywhere in Discord that you guys wanted the birds to be a little bit changed because it was too much, and that's
so the core rule changes we established the last time, which is that if you are crouched or if you just stand still once you've kind of like triggered them a little bit, like they kind of like go a little bit alert, that is still the same, which means standing still or crouching is the best way of avoiding them to go up. So you can crouch around them actually pretty closely. Now, the frustrating part was that once you wanted to de-escalate, many people just stood up and walked away. We're assuming, rightfully, that they wouldn't kind of escalate because you're kind of like de-escalating by moving away, and they would still go off. And that was the frustrating part. As you tried to move around them a little bit or backing away from them, very often they would still kind of, in a very frustrating way, just trigger. Now, with these changes, and we have a nice video for that, it's a bit more controllable, and hopefully this makes it a little bit easier to understand what's going on there.
Yeah,
so I think that's this one here. So you can see a couple of flocks of birds here. See that gonna go aggressive. Can still walk around. They've already de-escalated, as you can see from the pose. And now they tense up a little bit more. I can kind of control them by just standing still. So I have much more control about like playing around them, being around them. But obviously, if I overdo it, they still trigger, right? Like, so you need to learn. I need to kind of like get a feel for it. It is different from what it was in the past, so it still needs some things you have to learn differently. But overall, it's a lot fairer now. So as you can see here, I'm just turning around now and running away, and nothing happens, which is perfectly fine. So like they understand now that moving away from them de-escalates and will not be as erratic as they sometimes were perceived.
Is this with beast face or normally?
I think this was without beast face. This was just regular. I might have had beast face. I didn't particularly pay attention to it, but the rule set is the same. It's just that the distances. The important part is you need to look for their animations. You see when they kind of tense up. You see the audio. This is the warning cue. Like if you now stop or crouch, you're fine. But if you press on, like here in this case, it just escalates all the way.
So, yeah, it's a new rifle.
Yeah.
We showed it earlier in the stream. Okay, just a tiny bit left.
Yeah, what do we have left actually?
We have some elevator changes.
Oh yeah. So something that we found was a bit off in the world was the elevators. So intended as a nice feature, just opening vertical paths, giving so interesting options.
Elevator music.
They were unfortunately underused, or are currently still underused. So what we've done is we've changed them a little bit so that they actually have more direct use to the players. What it means is primarily, you will see it in the video in a second, if the elevator isn't at your position, you need to use the crank wheel to get it to your position manually. You kind of like use the winch, kind of like crank it until it's there. Once it arrives, it locks in place.
It doesn't directly go back.
Yes, so that means you can go inside, you press a button, you pull a lever, and then it kind of like moves you to the opposite point automatically. You don't need a partner doing it for you. You can do it completely on your own. Obviously, you can also, once you arrived at the other position, just press the button again and automatically goes down again. So while you are inside the cabin, you can always go into the opposite direction. However, if it's not at your position, you need to use the crank wheel in order to get it.
There was this one really funny bug where there was a stream where they went up in the elevator, but the elevator like continued going up like fast, and then it just went into the sky. Reminds me of that movie. I don't know if you have it in German or in English too. The one where it is like the kid and he's like the elevator attendant, and they go and travel with an elevator.
I have no idea.
In Dutch, I think it's called Appeltje. It was a pretty good movie. Anyways.
Let's play some elevator music.
I mean, it would be cool if we get elevator music. I see the chat in favor of it, so.
I mean, it's very harsh industrial music that's being played. It's like okay.
No, it's not Willy Wonka. It's something else. It's a Dutch movie.
So I used the elevator underneath the crematorium, and as you can see, the crank is spinning very nicely, fluidly. Like you see, like nice, finally fixed. So now I've got it.
See,
I pressed
we
the
fix
button.
up bugs, guys. No worries. I see a lot of people asking, will we fix bugs too? But that's not. It's not a feature. We don't want to say like, hey guys, we really fixed all of those things. Read the patch notes.
Once alive.
When it's live, obviously.
So again here, since the elevator locks in place, I can just use it instantly to go down. Which is pretty nice. You can see like the crank is kind of spinning on its own obviously at this time. I'm going back up. You can do this all day basically.
Yeah.
And what it also obviously allows you is to kind of play with players a little bit. Like there could be guys underneath, so you just kind of send it down, and now maybe you might be making your way for the other stairs, etc. So use it a little bit more for deception. And obviously now, since you send it down, you would need to crank it like all the way up manually.
Ding.
So yeah, this should open up maybe a couple of new tactics, different approaches for some of the areas where we've been using elevators in the past. And so yeah, it will be interesting to again get your feedback once this is on the test server. What you think, what you like, and have fun with it.
Okay, let's see. We have one more slide left.
One more slide.
Not the
So yeah, so we're gonna use that one a little bit to talk about what we want to talk about a little bit more in the next
Yeah.
stream. So besides obviously talking about boss number 3 and the Still Watered by You changes,
Yeah.
we also want to show you or talk to you a little bit about changes to actually one of the existing bosses we have been doing, which is the Butcher. Now, when this will be on test server, you
Yeah.
will actually be able to see the changes to the Butcher already. So we will not talk about it much. It's just that it has a changed behavior. It is working a little bit differently. Like the one thing I'm going to tell you is that it's no longer dropping on the knee, and instead it has a bit of an frenzy aggro mode as part of its core behavior. We want you to experience this a bit fresh, so ideally, actually, we don't talk much more about it. This will be on the test server, and we will explain this a little bit more in the second stream when we talk about all the other things.
So do we want to already share, like, when the test server is going live, the boss will not be there yet, but it's coming about a week after?
It's like a few days after. So basically, there will be an update to the test server, and that will then basically the stuff we talk about in stream 2, and that includes the new boss.
Because obviously we gotta do that marketing, that exclusivity and stuff like that.
It's also that we really need feedback for some of the bigger system changes, like we talked about the poison, we talked about the way the interactions work, etc. And these things, ideally, we're gonna get to you very quickly so that we can feedback, so we can iron out any issues with it, so that once that is resolved, then you have a chance to actually really focus on the new boss. While the other stuff that we also need the test server exposure for and need your feedback on has been kind of dealt with already for the most part. Yeah. Now, let's look at this part here, the Book of Monsters.
Lore! I know a lot of you guys want lore.
Yes.
I don't want to exactly say everything yet, but I'm not going to share everything that's in the book. But the way it works is you can kill monsters and more monsters to find out more about them.
Yes.
That's
so
what we're gonna say for now.
Exactly. You can read up on stuff. You can do challenges in order to unlock more stuff. And this is a bit of a test case for us for more books. We want to see how that's being appreciated. People like having finally a chance to dig more into the lore part. And we're gonna walk you through this in a bit more detail in the next stream.
Exactly. I think we have had a lot of stuff. New weapons, new tools, new traits, new level change, new level changes, old level change. New. So yeah, we have lore coming, more lore. I know a lot of people have been asking for it in the lore channel as well in Discord. So what I'm very curious, what is the favorite thing so far that you've seen today? What you'd like to see, or what are you gonna try first? I'm very curious.
Now we'll see the chat explode. Bomblands!
Bomblands! No, it's not there yet.
Lebel rifle, bomblands.
I think Lebel and bomblands are both really
Lebel. They
popular.
definitely gravitate a lot to the
Bomblands
to the equipment in general.
Yeah.
The water bomb.
The water bomb, yeah. Stream 2 is about next week. We don't know exact day yet, but I assume probably Thursday, like the normal live stream. So
we aim for it, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Yeah,
we can do recap or questions. What do you want to do first?
we'll do some questions while we do sort of a recap. Do you want to just go through some of the images, like real quick?
Yeah, I can just go through.
Okay. So questions. Let me see. When is the test serving going up? Well, most important question.
So we're working on it at the moment. We hope that this will happen this week. Working actively for it, and should be able to give you the first part of 6.0 rather soon.
Yeah. So yeah, we had, as to say, new hunter variants. Real quick, this is the rap battle. I can't rap anymore. Like these braces.
You want to do it with your own pacing here?
Okay, so we have some more new hunter variants for like tier 1, 2, 3 hunters. Obviously, the second on the left is very cool. He looks like a scarecrow, and I also really like the second on the left here because he looks like a mailman, policeman type thing. We have some hold actions. Hold actions means you have to hold to use your health, or like health boxes.
This is just for the health boxes.
Just for the health boxes, not for the ammo. We have new traits. Vulture, which means you can loot twice of body.
No, you can't loot twice. What you can do
Also
is
from the ammo boxes and stuff?
no, just for the hunters, and it's not really looting twice. It's just in case the guy has been fully
Has already
looted.
been looted, you can loot
you
him.
can loot him nonetheless.
Yeah. But you can't loot him twice.
You can't lose him twice. Loot
that
him
would've
twice.
been
Like,
so nice.
yeah.
Ghoul. My brain is not working anymore.
Yeah, so you get health.
Oh yeah, you get
as you loot.
50% health if
Not
you loot
50
him.
health, just 50 hit points.
Yeah, 50 hit points, but not you can't get your like lost health bars. Adrenaline, which means that you get stamina when you're like in low flash red health state, which means you can
It regens instantly, so maybe you can survive. Yeah.
Survive a bit longer. The picture has some changes for the blank fire decoys.
That's a general change. So blank fire decoys and regular decoys are now in the range of the normal throwables, like firebomb, dynamite stick, etc. And pitcher has less of a bonus now on throwables.
Yeah, it was a bit crazy. Poison changes. You can now not heal while poisoned. It is shorter though.
Half time.
And it's something crazy. If you have a antidote and use it at the beginning of the game, poison doesn't do anything to you.
Yeah, full
like
match.
It still does damage, but on like hit, but it doesn't.
Yeah, you can walk through poison clouds or spiders, etc.
Game.
It lasts the entire duration of the match.
Yes, it's pretty crazy, right? So yeah, we got a Lamont revolver. Pretty cool. It has just shotgun shells and what is it? Medium.
Compact bullets, right? And you can use the new X fire mode swap button, toggle button.
Yeah, so the toggle button will be default on X, but we'll get an option to like remap it to your preferred button. And you can also do that then for
the
lanterns. Yeah. And we have a LaBelle rifle, also new, very fancy, a little bit more clunkier than the Mosin guns. Does slightly less damage. Has a bolt action rifle.
10 rounds.
Has 10 rounds and 5
capacity.
spare.
Long bullets.
And it's really cool. Obviously, the bomb lance is a lance.
Large slot melee weapon.
A large slot melee weapon. It's a lance, and it has 5 shots, and it's a 1 kill hit, and it really. The explosions on like AI are so good. It's super rewarding. I just want to look at it again. Just look at it explode. Wait, was it this one? I can't see properly.
You're on a rifle there. This one. This 24.
You really just have to see this if you haven't seen this yet. But like, look at this. It's especially like
a little before that. Or just go all the way to the grunt and you feel.
That one, but the grunt is real good. Okay.
I do this one.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. There goes the body parts. Great. It's great. Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Is this going to be like you shoot 5 and you're done?
Yes.
Or can you reload them?
At the moment.
I mean, not refill them.
So there's another thing. I wanted to save it for the second stream, but we can talk about it right now. Which is there is a change to the purple special ammo pack we have. You know, the small packs at the moment just gives you nitro bullets.
Yeah.
This one also, from this update on, gives you a chance to replenish all of the special ammunition types. So you might get an explosive or a shot bolt. You might be able to get just crossbow bolts in general. So it's still not possible to reload them or restock them from the big boxes. But if you find one of those purple boxes, it's not just nitro bullets right now, it also is any of the specials, and that includes also the bomb lance.
Yeah, and you can still use the melee when the ammo is like when you're out of ammo, of course, because it's just a melee weapon. It doesn't slash based on how many bullets you are like harpoon bullets.
And this thing is actually pretty good from an economic point of view. Like, so the regular attacks are rather easy on the stamina. We said heavy ones. I mean, they do a lot of damage. They are similar like stamina consumption like the wood axe or the sledgehammer. So you can do like 2 heavy strikes, but I mean 2 strikes is what you need to bring down a meathead. So this is it's actually a pretty good deal.
Yes. Let me see. I saw a question and I already forgot about it. But what bloodline level do you unlock the Rebel rifle and how much does it cost?
We will have to wait for the test server on this one, so I wanted to not bore you with too many numbers today. We will recap that in the second stream, but I think by the time you guys will have seen it anyways then on the test server in mid-hatches, so like chance to play with them. The bomb lance is rather late to unlock.
Yeah, imaginable. But I also see a lot of people ask about Reconnect. We do not have any current plans for Reconnect option. We are focusing on other features.
Yes.
Will it usually randomly if I'm missing... Wait, will it be usually... Oh, usable randomly, or if I'm missing a bolt, will it automatically get it if everything is full?
I don't get that question.
I don't get the question. I'm sorry. I'm very confused.
So basically what it means is you have those 5-6 shots. If you use them up, you're empty. If you find a small, like a special ammo pack, the purple ones, you can get maybe 1 or 2 additional ones. You have to reload them one at a time using like this pretty awesome reload animation we have. And if you run out of any ammunition for it, obviously it's still going to be a fantastic melee weapon.
Yeah. Female Hunters is still coming. Will all the revolvers get a more realistic reload animation like Wilmot?
With realistic, they mean what? The speed or what is it?
I don't know.
That's so technically it follows the same logic.
Ooh, I see a very good question. Will the antidote be persistent after you get revived?
Yes.
What? That's insane.
So once you are down and you get revived, I mean it's still in your blood, right? I mean you still benefit from it. You might have lost some, maybe from the wounds, but you're still under effect of it. So basically, it means if you inject that antidote shot, then you're safe for this entire mission.
Yeah.
This effect. Obviously, in quick play, this is super advantageous. If you come across one, well, just put it right in. It saves you a lot of trouble along the way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, prestige rewards. Maybe in the future, something we definitely want to do.
Yeah, it would be legendary to make.
Let me see. More realistic smoke from the guns and rifles and bullet explosion that actually makes see in close space after or during a shootout harder.
We kind of do have that. So what we do differentiate with the weapons
but
is...
it's also because like we were shooting at water, so like you don't obviously have that much.
That's true, but also there's a difference between weapons in the game that use black powder or gunpowder and smokeless powder, which means some of the more modern weapons, and it includes the Labelle rifle, it includes the Mosin guns, that includes the Dolch. They use smokeless, which is a bit more powerful and does produce obviously less smoke. And then you have, like for example, most of the shotguns or some of the older pistols, like the Caldwell, etc., which have gunpowder, and you will see in the game visibly they actually do produce more smoke. And a big thing also is that you can actually, at the moment, use dynamite to obscure targets, right? You just throw it because there's lingering smoke after the explosion. So there is already effects like that in the game which you can use, but we're looking always for ways to improve this further.
Will there be an alternative fire mode for the lance to stab with it?
Not at the moment. So we intentionally wanted to keep this weapon to be one which does slash damage. It's rending damage type, obviously, but like it slashes rather than pointing. So that also goes a little bit against the bayonets or the saber, which have the stab damage.
Yeah. If you throw CONCERTINA in an elevator, will it rise and fall with the elevator?
It does not. So what happens at the moment is it will just basically spawn and the elevator will move through it.
Yeah. Okay.
To the unfortunate result, if someone has been inside that elevator, well, they get shredded.
Would be really nice. Let me see. Okay, let's go through some of the the recap. So bomb mines is really cool. We have two types of trip mines. We have the alert mine, which is sort of like fireworks, firecracker in a pot that if you walk through, obviously, or the enemy, which is more ideal.
Get 3 in a pack as a tool?
Pack, yes, and let's say you can obviously defuse them or disarm them.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's automatically a world item. So as soon as anyone, even if it's your own, disarms them, it becomes a world item and they can place it wherever, and it's not the same as like having it back in your...
Just like with the bear traps.
Yeah. And the same with the CONCERTINA, but it's like just a CONCERTINA mine, but very small.
Also a tool, but you only get 1 in that pack.
Yeah. So we reworked the CONCERTINA a little bit. It's more consistent spread in like the area, as well as it slows now too.
Yes, so it becomes more of an actually like a physical barrier, like an obstacle.
We have some flash tweaks. It's like that you now have a hit marker, so it gives you better validation.
So if you flash someone completely, so he's being flashed for a few seconds, then you get a hit marker. If you only like glance him, if he only is being flashed slightly, which means he would be back to normal vision within a second, you don't even get a hit marker, so you know when it was effective and when you should be pushing and when not.
Exactly. Shotgun tuning.
So basically we had the body damage parts that we changed.
Less on the arms and
the legs, so you need to be hitting more effectively center body. So what could happen right now is that if you hit a large number of the pellets on the legs, you might still kill the guy effectively. Now this is less likely. You need to have a good hit in order to do that. We also made sure that the weapons drop in damage a little bit faster, but they keep the minimum a little bit longer. So the ranges didn't change, it's just that you have a bit more significant amount of damage, like 10, 15 at the second half of the range, but you also lose that initial damage a little bit more. We will show some charts to compare in the next stream.
Yeah, I mean, on Hunt Showdown, it should already been on YouTube as regular Hunt Showdown, but it's through something that like doesn't change it, and I don't know why.
What's the question? I didn't get that.
Yeah, it's YouTube stuff. Let me see. There were two really good questions. Can you jump over the tripwire?
Yeah, you can try, like with a bear trap. And sometimes it works, and if you're good, it works very well. And sometimes, if you're not so good, it doesn't work so well.
That was the separate. When there will be a new boss, I mean, obviously, next stream we'll talk more about the boss, which will be next week. But
part 2 of Update 6.0,
exactly,
which will include the new boss.
Yeah. Will you put 3 bosses at the same time in a single map, or will it be more like 2 mags?
We'll talk more about that in the next
stream. Okay, so be there next week. Okay, let's do 1 or 2 more questions, and I think then we have had a good amount.
You need to recap the rest though, so right?
Exactly. Let me see. Okay, 1 sec. Okay, so we have some change laws in Delta. Previous, future. I mean, yeah, technically future. Currently, future. Trenches, really cool. So we have some vision of the trenches from different perspectives.
This is north of the Fort Carmack and Lawson Delta.
As you can see, this is not there for reals. It's just there for the end. What is this actually? What does this indicate though?
No, this is the outer wall of Fort Carmack.
The red?
Oh, the red, that's just a replacement. That just means there's like some texture which didn't make it in. There it works.
Yeah, it's funny because it works.
See, which means on the new screenshot it's already fixed.
Exactly, like here the texture doesn't work, but with the new one, I really like a trench. I think it's really cool. It makes it definitely.
You see like a bit more hills, a bit more cover, some obstacles in the way. So just breaking up the line of sight a little bit more.
I like the pointy roof as well, like cling, cling.
You know what it is? They usually had like a crane up there, which you could then lift the ship. No.
Oh yeah, with the bucket and stuff. I mean, we had that in our old house. I grew up in a farm in the middle of nowhere. I'm just saying, we still have that. So we changed some aggro stuff to the birds. So we might want to show that video.
Yeah. So basically, if you walk away from them, they are less likely to aggro now, which was one of the biggest frustrations with our rework that people have been complaining about. So this still the main rule is if you crouch, if you stand still, you're usually pretty safe already. But what happened in the past is you start to back away from them, and it would still trigger. Now they actually de-aggro when you do that, which is more reliable now for you to not trigger them.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you just push them, as you can see in a second, they will just go off normally. So important part here is look for the animations, look for the audio, listen to the audio, and you usually can manage them right well.
Oh, that I didn't say in the recap. That if you burn someone, you can't loot them anymore.
Yeah, it's actually something maybe we should talk a bit more about, just to recap.
Yeah, so if you were to burn a body, you cannot loot them anymore. So it will be choice. You can still take the weapon, but you can't loot the money and bullets.
Plus, the looting also takes the same time now to revive does, so 4 seconds. So there's overall what we try to do with the hold action changes and with the fact that you cannot loot someone who is currently burning or has burned out completely.
Yeah.
Is that it becomes more of a conscious choice whether you want to instantly burn the guy, maybe to get the advantage in a firefight, like don't have to worry about this guy anymore, or whether you actually want to maybe finish the fight without burning in order to be able to loot both of them just fine. So it becomes more of a choice, there's a bit more consequence. It's a minor point, but it just hopefully should not make this like this automated, guaranteed always happening thing, but
Yeah.
actually more of a conscious thought.
Sounds good. And then we still had, I think, the elevator changes. Yeah, we just made it that if you get an elevator, you can just call it towards you if it is not with you, and then it will not directly like go up or down. It will just stay. Well,
Yeah,
not
kind of locks in
up.
place. You can see it on the screen
Yeah.
down there. Like if it would have been up right now, you need to operate the crank in order to get it down manually. Once it's down, it kind of locks in place. It rests, and then once you go
Well,
inside,
technically, they can't see it because we're in front of it. But
show the video. I think we can save ourselves some trouble.
yeah, instead of. Okay.
So here again, elevator is currently in the up position, so
And it
I need
dings now.
to call it, and look at that smooth crank animation. So now it's been locked. I can go inside. There's a different prompt. I can press that, and I release the elevator, and now I go up automatically, which means I can use them on my own now. I no longer need that other guy who helps me. And obviously, when I'm up there, I could just press the button again and just go down instantly.
If I'm in there, can somebody call it down as well?
While it's working, you can't do anything. He would need to then wait.
No, the other person. Like,
Well,
so
he
let's say
could-
I'm sitting down and I
Yeah.
just call to my buddy, hey, bring me up. Like, you can do that, right?
Yes, but you can also just press the button yourself.
Yeah, but that's not as fun, right? Making other people work.
You can make your partner work for it. That's perfectly fine. It's just that now we can get around that, which means
Yeah.
while you have the cabin, like the actual elevator at your position, go inside, press the button. If it's not at your position, you need to use the crank in order to get it up again, and it rests in place, and then just makes it a bit more usable, and opens up a couple of different paths in the map.
Yeah. Okay. About the holding interactions. When I'm reviving a teammate that's burning, would the fire stop when I hold the button?
At the moment, not, but we actually talked about exactly that as a thing. We wanted to try out. This is something which we didn't make for 6.0, so this might be in the next update, which is that the moment you start the revive, you already extinguish the fire. Something to try out. We would really like to test that, but at the moment, for this update, this wouldn't be included.
So we are listening. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, and then it's just more of like next week, we're going to talk about the new boss. We're going to talk about the Book of Monsters. It's mainly like a monster focus, and we're going to talk about some of the changes on Stillwater Bayou.
And the surprise change is that the Butcher has a redesign.
The Butcher has redesigned.
So that will be already on the test server before the next stream.
Yeah, exactly.
So this
you
is a
can
bit more of
already
a
play with
more of a surprise thing for you guys to just look and see how it feels, and we explain a little bit more in detail the thoughts behind it, etc. When we come back.
Exactly. And like the Book of Monsters is lore, so you'll be able to unlock stuff by killing stuff.
Yes, different
Can be
conditions. So similar to like the challenges, that there's certain things you need to do. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in the next stream as well. But it's one way for us to make sure that you guys get access to more lore pieces, but we also still connected somewhat with gameplay.
Exactly. So yeah, that was it for today. I see a lot of questions that we can answer next week or later. Make sure you go try it out on the test server when it goes live this week, and give us your feedback. It is very, very welcome, and definitely try it, especially because there are some features and like things that we fixed, like also the fact that you can now still sprint when you have the reload of the bolt action.
Bolt action thing you got adjusted, yeah. So just
exactly.
lots of
a lot of life
slice
slice of life,
Quality- quality of life improvements.
Yeah.
And yeah, many small things, little things, a couple new weapons, a couple new feature changes. This has the potential of actually mixing up the meta again, depending on loadouts, etc. So yeah, we're curious to see how you guys play with it, what you like, what you don't like. So make sure you post your feedback after you've played on a test server.
Yeah.
And otherwise, we'll see you next week then.
Have a good one, and I'll see you guys later. Also, if you are going to PAX East, I'll be there handing out pins, so come find me if you're there, because I have a lot of cool hunt pins with me that I'll be sharing. So have a good night, and we'll see you guys next week.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye!